Hey everybody, Casey here with Life Abstract Gaming, and this week I think it's finally time to take on a lingering debate about whether Cartoon Network in its 90s, 2000s era carried a far superior stable of shows than it does today.
Right on time.
My hand. It's alive. Here it comes.
For years now, I've been hearing over and over again that Cartoon Network used to be so much better than it is now. That few couple of years where they started to introduce live action content like Dude, What Would Happen and Out of Jimmy's Head, I would have been inclined to agree, but things have changed radically since then. The live action stuff is gone, and there's been a stable of critically acclaimed animated shows that I would argue are better than Cartoon Network's golden age, which is generally considered an 8 to 9 year period of time between the mid-90s and late 2000s, depending on who you ask. So in order to illustrate this argument, I'm going to put 5 Cartoon Network shows from the past up against 5 shows from the current era. I decided that the premiere of Adventure Time in 2010 would be the hard cutoff as the official start of the new era, and anything before that is fair game, as long as it premiered before 2010 and or ended its run before that same year. I picked out what I considered to be the best 5 shows from the past era, but in the spirit of fairness, I took a bunch of additional suggestions on that topic to help make that list as strong as possible. For the new era, I just went with my personal strongest 5 shows to compete with it. For the old era, I ended up with Dexter's Laboratory, the original Powerpuff Girls, Ed, Edd n Eddy, Courage the Cowardly Dog, and Codename Kids Next Door. I'll just reiterate that my personal list for the old shows is slightly different, but these were the most consistent shows I got from my limited feedback, so if you think something's missing that would have made the list stronger, I actually agree with you. But there's quite a few people who probably wouldn't, so... My list for the current era includes Adventure Time, Steven Universe, The Amazing World of Gumball, Regular Show, and Teen Titans Go! Notice how there's no anime on either list or classic cartoons like Looney Tunes, since those shows were just rebroadcast from elsewhere and not Cartoon Network originals. This is as fair as I can think to make this comparison. I'll pit 2 shows from each era against each other that I feel have the most in common and attempt to explain why I think one is better than the other, and that winner will get a point for its era. So let's start at the bottom and work our way up to the heavy hitters. Codename Kids Next Door versus Teen Titans Go! What's similar about these shows is that they focus on teams of kids who are extraordinary. The Kids Next Door being a secret organization of children that fight adult tyranny, and the Teen Titans are superheroes that fight against crime. While the Kids Next Door are young children and sometimes act like it with wanting to do things like eat sugary cereal and play with toys, they are pretty no-nonsense when it comes to doing their duty, especially their leader number 1, who is almost humorless most of the time. In contrast, the Teen Titans are very rarely serious about their jobs and will routinely spend entire episodes doing nothing even close to it. The 2 shows have fundamentally different objectives with their stories. The Teen Titans have the benefit of being characters well known to viewers. They had a previous show, and some of them, like Robin, have appeared in other media in multiple different incarnations. Teen Titans Go! Is seeking to parody what viewers know about these characters. They make fun of them in their own show and break the fourth wall to acknowledge just how silly it all is to take what these characters are doing as serious. Kids Next Door is a comedy, but it has a story to tell. Its focus is on developing its characters and their personalities so that the audience can get to know them. They expand on the world those characters live in and actually weave together a very interesting history that was great to uncover. As much as I love Teen Titans Go! Today, there's an entire video I made defending the show's existence. I can't deny that I actually think Codename Kids Next Door is a better show. With the way Go plays around in a superhero world, it just lacks that kind of depth that K&D eventually revealed over the course of his run. It genuinely had story payoffs that Teen Titans Go just hasn't matched. And for me personally, an interesting story will usually win out. The first point goes to the old school.
1-0.
Courage the Cowardly Dog versus Regular Show. On the surface, these two shows seem totally different, but I actually find them to have quite a bit in common. Both shows generate their stories from seemingly innocuous situations growing increasingly out of hand. Courage is just the pet dog of an old couple that lives on a farm in the countryside, while Mordecai and Rigby are slacker best friends who work and live in a park in a city. Yet they get into situations that threaten their lives, bend reality, space, and time on such a regular basis. Its hilarity comes from the absurdity of their normal circumstances being so completely upended on a constant basis. The differences come into play when you think about genre. As kids' cartoons, of course they're both comedic, but Courage is uniquely positioned as a light horror show with comedic tones, while Regular Show is more of a comedy with light drama tones. They also differ in regards to character depth. Courage's show is much more episodic. It doesn't often have events from one episode that carry over into the next. Things just reset between each episode like a classic sitcom. It also doesn't dive very deep into the three main characters. While Courage did get a flashback scene sort of showing his tragic origins, I can't remember anything similar for Eustace and Muriel. And even without origins, the characters never grew or changed at all over the course of the series. They always just fulfilled their roles as Unlikely Hero, Damsel in Distress, and Grouch. Regular Show, on the other hand, routinely revealed the histories of its much larger cast. We got to learn how most of the characters met and why many of them behave the way that they do during the series. Side characters like Skips, for example, had a very detailed origin story that was shrouded in mystery and eventually revealed over time to genuinely surprising and meaningful results. The main characters even change over time, like Rigby, who eventually came around to accepting his feelings towards Eileen, who he was dismissive of at first, and Mordecai's even more turbulent love life, being dissected in detail until he learned that he was essentially a fuckboy and needed to just say how he felt. In this round, the winner's clear to me. Regular Show takes the point for the new school.
Score 1-1.
So with the first two rounds leaving us with a tie, I think it's a good time to close this video out. It's getting pretty long at this point, and the next 3 rounds are likely to require much more internal debate. So next week, I'm hoping to finish this discussion up. So, how do you guys feel about the score so far? Did I make the case for the winners I chose, or do you disagree? What are your predictions for the next 3 matchups? Let us know. We're listening.